G'day and welcome to the SCP show for round 11. I'm Paige and it's just me and Damon on here tonight. Damon, how are we?
Yeah, not too bad, Paige, not too bad at all. And yes, Mick is expecting the birth of his child. Very exciting. The next father-son, maybe?
Yeah,
maybe
we're hoping for a father-son to the SCP show. The baby's overdue, actually. So Friday was D-Day, we're told. So good luck, Mick. But into more pressing issues, we are joined by the one and only Matt Joyce from Sydney. Joyce, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. I didn't get chocolate hat this week. How did it feel, Paige?
Yeah, feeling shit. Feeling pretty shit. Thanks. Yeah.
What did you score?
Look, I scored a measly 15.54 this week. Yourself?
I got 17.01, which was the same as my good friend Damon.
Yes, that's right. I think that's the second week in a row.
We've had a draw.
Yeah.
That's a bit odd.
Wow.
Well, of course, and Mick took it out. 17.59 he had last week. Pretty decent score considering the bye rounds, but moving into it, we're now finished the byes.
Yes, I must mention as well, last week we had the first great debate which involved Trent Cotchin, and I was all for trading him out. And I must admit, it was the last second that I opted to trade out Shuey instead, and it worked out because Cotchin ended up scoring 30 more points than Shuey, and got Shuey out for Pendlebury, of course, and that netted me an instant result of 90 plus points differential right there. So it's instant results with Pendles coming in, and also I was chatting to Mick on Twitter about the issue and getting Pendlebury in, and he's like, "Oh, that's a good trade." Next minute, Pendlebury followed me on Twitter, so there you go. And Ablett, just if you're watching, mate, I'm a massive fan of yours.
Yeah, I'm here too, mate. I'm here too. Bit of love for the First Lady of SuperCoach. Thank you very much.
Give us a bit of a follow.
Moving on to the great debate, as we just mentioned, the buyers are done and dusted. You don't have to worry about them anymore, thankfully. But the great debate again returned this week, and my boy Tom Langdon, well, he didn't have a great game in terms of his scoring potential, just the 53 points from him. But we posed the question this week, is Tom Langdon a keeper or not? And you've got the votes. What were they?
Yes, I do have the votes, and at the moment as it stands, so you can still influence it because it's quite tight at the moment, 52% are saying trade him and 48% are saying keep hold of him.
So it's pretty tight, but look, I am, for Team Paige this week, I have said hold him, and hold him at least for now. But I tell you what, Tommy Langdon, look, he's still got a pretty good average, but the big thing to remember is that he's not going to move away from this side. He's so entrenched in the back six at Collingwood. He's had a great run. He's been fairly consistent for a first-year player. Buckley absolutely loves him, but here's the big sticking point for me. Collingwood face St Kilda, Melbourne, and the Western Bulldogs in succession. That is 3 of the current bottom 4 over the next 3 weeks. So there is a huge scoring potential there for him to actually get you some pretty good points. And considering the way that those 3 teams move the ball inside their 50, you'd say that Tom Langdon's got a pretty good opportunity to win a fair bit of ball from the opposition. So look, that's something to really to consider in my book, and you should at least be keeping him for that reason.
Yep, and I'm taking the other side of the coin for hashtag Team Damon, which is thinking about trading him out, and the one main reason is that he is quite inconsistent. Now, he's registered scores of 90 or above in only 4 out of the 9 games that he's played so far. So not too bad, you could probably say, but he's averaging 57 in the other 5 games. So for me, that consistency, that up and down, he has been consistent for consecutive weeks from memory, so he's not too bad there. But I think, as we saw last week, he can be prone still. He is a rookie, remember, so he's not going to be scoring regularly high scores, and he does have a high ceiling. But again, that variance, that length between his lower scores and his higher scores, it's just way too big, I think, for me anyway. But that's something that I'm considering at the moment because I've got Langdon as well. But the results speak for itself. So it's 52% saying trade him at the moment, and only 48% saying keep hold of him. So.
Well, there you go. You can go to the website and check out the great debate, and you can view that as well. There'll be a link attached on the YouTube description here, so just scroll down for that. But moving on to the next topic of discussion, it's prime premiums. We're looking again at some great premiums to bring in, and Joyce, you've had a bit of a look at Buddy Franklin this week. What do you think?
I have. He's only priced at 405,000. He's averaging 81, break even of 18, so guaranteed to go up in price. You're not going to get him any cheaper. And his next 3 games are against Geelong, Gold Coast, and Port Adelaide. So those are teams that he actually plays quite well against. He's in great form. He's in a great team. Tippett's in now. I think he'll get back-to-back scores of 100 and continue on for the rest of the season.
Well, with, I guess as well, the other thing you can remember is we've got Lonergan's out of the side this week. So, historically speaking, he tends to score pretty well when Lonergan's not playing, and that's only been a couple of scores of 120 odd plus, but it's something to seriously consider, I think, and he should probably towel up Mark Blitzarves, who's actually going to go to him. So, could be a really good night for Buddy, and that reason alone is enough for me to trade him in. But
yeah, two-bit defender right there. But Blitzarves did play well when he was pushing defence, but yeah, I mean, that inexperience there with Buddy's experience outweighing it, I think, yeah, it's something to keep your eye on. And if he doesn't pull up for the game line again, definitely get on Buddy right there. The other player at the moment who is an absolute bargain is Nick Riewoldt. He's priced at 399,000 and he's averaging 93. And remember the first, I think it was 3 or 4 rounds of the season, he was absolutely annihilating teams, scoring, from 120 to 150. So his ceiling was quite big. And since then, he's just, I think a lot of teams have found out the fact that if you stop Nick Riewoldt, then you can stop St Kilda. Yep. And he has been out of form a little bit as well. So it is, as well as him, as well as the opposition that are finding him out. But he hasn't been this low in price since 2011 and has dropped every single season apart from 2006 and 2007. And he's dropped each of those seasons apart from those by 10%. And at the moment, he's dropped by 29%. This year, so he's a bargain basement price, and his break even is 92. So his average being 93, you could probably reach that, and maybe the last week to get on him. And
I tell you what, the other thing to consider there as well is that although he looks fantastic in terms of that price tag of $3.99, but according to Champion Data, St Kilda have the 3rd toughest run home of any other team in the competition. So if you're thinking about getting in Roo, it's probably something to consider, I would say. But looking ahead now, and it's all well and good to have a look at these guys, and a lot of teams now are trying to finalise their midfield, but we've got news for you, because looking ahead, there's going to be 2 absolute guns that are going to be very affordable in the coming weeks. And Joyce, Steve Johnson, what can you tell us about him?
Well, he's already under 600,000 since he had that crappy score against Fremantle. He's averaging 116, break even of 168 though because of that poor scoring. And his next 3 are against Sydney, Carlton and St Kilda, and that's coming after a month of massive scores before that bad score against Freo, where he had 150, 141, 110 and 135. So huge scoring potential. He can get big scores. He was suspended in round 10, so that's why we're really not trading him in this week, but in a couple of weeks, he's an absolute steal. And
also, just of his 6 scores where he scored over 100, in 4 of them, he scored 135 plus. So when he scores high, he scores massive.
Well, that is that's a fair comment. But Leigh Montagna, now $598,000. He's got a current break even of 224, which is unheard of, basically. Wow. Now, look, earlier in the year, he rivaled Gary Ablett in terms of output, and he had, in succession, having a look here, scores of 140, 174 and 144 against Essendon, Brisbane and Hawthorn. Look, the score of 84 against Carlton and 48 against Gold Coast, can you believe, is what makes that break even so high, and which makes his price drop even better. So for the prospective buyer, you'd be spewing if you bought him in when he was at the top of his game and he spat out those 2 scores. So, but for those that don't have him, I reckon he looks a really hot option. Yeah, and one thing to consider, I think, especially when it comes to getting in premiums, let alone premiums, any sort of player, is looking ahead to the teams that are yet to play and the year ahead. And St Kilda have the 3rd toughest run home, I think. Yep. So even though he was in the SCP All-Australian last year, he faces a tough test with the games remaining. It'd be interesting. But look, in terms of the premiums that we should be bringing in this week, the must-have ones, and this has been a big question over at www.scpage.com.au. Now, Josh Kennedy, he is absolutely your boy, well and truly, Joyce.
Yeah, no, he hasn't scored below 100 points since his 99 against GWS, but you really have to know if Tom Mitchell's playing or if he isn't. It affects his score massively. He's got an average of 107.5 with Tom Mitchell playing, which, you know, isn't bad, but he's got 136.6 average when Tom Mitchell isn't playing. So with Mitchell showing great form in the Niafl, he got a 269 SuperCoach point game in the Niafl. It seems like he's pretty likely to come in, especially after, you know, Sydney have now had their bye. So I'd actually be hesitant about trading him in. But if you're interested, be sure to check out the unique of the week that was posted up on the SCP website.
And also, just on Josh Kennedy, he hasn't scored below 100 points since scoring 99 against GWS. So he's been in ripping, consistent form right there. So he's one to definitely consider. Another one, which I think a lot of people would have already got on, is Joel Selwood. He's priced at 557,900. He's averaging 119 at the moment. His break-even is 79. So if you haven't got him and you still want him, get on him right now. His next three comes up against Sydney, Carlton and St Kilda. So not too bad there. And he's had back-to-back scores of 100 plus. And of his 6 scores where he scored 100 plus this year, 5 have been in excess of 125 plus. So that shows that he's got a massive ceiling. That is huge. And
look, on that as well, Geelong actually have one of the easiest runs home, if you can actually imagine that. Look, they've got the likes of the Bulldogs, Melbourne and GWS in succession to come. They also face they play 9 sides that are in the bottom 8 at the moment, so therefore they're playing a bottom 8 side twice. And the other thing to remember, and this is a huge pull for mine, and this is something that you should really take into account, Geelong face Brisbane in the SuperCoach Grand Final. Now, for those of you who are eyeing off playing in a premiership this year, you would be looking at that and licking your lips and going, well, I've got Selwood, I've got Stevie J, I've got Enright, I've got these boys, and that could be the difference between you winning and losing a flag. So that's something to really take into consideration, in my opinion.
A few aces up the sleeve right there.
I reckon so, but look, to get these premiums in, we need to find some money, and therefore we need a couple of downgrade options. And we're looking at Bubble Boys this week, and one of my personal favourites, Charlie Cameron. Look, he's priced at 122, and he's about to go up this week. He's got a break-even of minus 55, so he's going to go up around 40 grand in cash. He faces a pretty tough next couple of weeks. Gold Coast, Fremantle, North Melbourne. He wasn't spectacular on the weekend, just the 39 points there, but what do you think about him?
I think he looked a really likely type in his first game, but as we saw last weekend, I mean, his scoring wasn't too pretty, but I think his job security is all right with the way that he plays. We mentioned that last week. He's a real goer. But with his next few opponents, he might score quite low, and there is a potential there that he might be made as a bit of a scapegoat.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the life of a small forward, though.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I mean, they might give him a chance. Really depends upon the next 3 games, how Adelaide travel, if they can beat those teams. But yeah, just a bit of a wait and see there, and hopefully he can play and make a bit of cash there, as well as be a bit of security on the bench there. But another player who a lot of people have got in, as he presented himself as really the only downgrade option in defence. It's Jed Bews. He's priced at 123,900. Averaging 50, so not too bad, I guess, considering the role that he's playing. His break-even at the moment is negative 26, so it's quite low there, so he is going to skyrocket in price. His next 3, he's got Sydney, Carlton and St Kilda, but much like Cameron, you have to question his spot in the side, especially, I mean, Adelaide are a mid-tier team at the moment, but Geelong are a top 4 side, and with the rookie coming in, you think maybe his spot is a bit on shaky ground.
Yep.
So yeah, but Billy Smets is coming back in this week, and we've actually got the teams for the Geelong and Sydney game, and I was worried about, you know, Bews losing his spot, but he's actually kept it. It's Enright and Lonergan that are out of the side, so good news for Bews owners like me.
Well, Cameron Shenton, what can you tell us about him there, Joyce?
Well, he's averaging 73 and he's priced at 155, so, you know, a bit more expensive than your bargain basement rookies, but he's got a break-even of negative 53, so that's very good for, you know, your money-making options. And his next 3 are against Collingwood, Port Adelaide and Geelong, so 3 pretty tough games, honestly, for St Kilda. 47 in his first game wasn't that flattering, but 99 then against the Gold Coast, which was much, much better, and that's the one that will, you know, stay on in the for his price changing for, you know, one round further. So there is a question mark about his job security, but I think Alan Richardson's really trying to get some youth, you know, some games up in the youth, and St Kilda do actually have a fair few long-term injuries, so I think his spot is relatively safe.
Well, as you said, they've got, you know, when you talk about injuries, they've got Wright's out, Geary's out, Fisher's out, and Gilbert's out, so that's a fair chunk of their back line that would play the similar sort of role that Shenton does. So I like him. I think he's probably a good option this week, especially for downgrading. But look, Ben Lennon's another option up forward as well. 162 is priced out. He's the priciest of all four there, sorry. He faces Essendon, North and Freo, so mixed bag coming up for Richmond. But the thing that probably gets me, and this is probably why I'm not looking at bringing him in, he scored only 58 against GWS and 66 against Melbourne. And I know he started as the sub against GWS, but the other issue I'm taking in mind here is that they're the two of the worst sides in the competition. He just couldn't capitalise on a good opportunity to score. Whether or not they tell us much is really still unknown. But I don't know. I think that obviously Floston's still out. That's great for his job security. I do harbour concerns going forward for the rest of the year because I think Richmond are going to embark on a huge romp home. I'm not sure if Lennon's going to be able to hold his side, considering the sort of the players that they've got thereabouts to come back in. But look, talking teams now, and what we're talking about this week, we're talking about who we're trading in, what we're looking at doing. But Damon, you've had a bit that's been going on for you. What's happening over at Woof of SCP?
Yes. Now I'm looking at using the two trades again. A lot of people might say that I've been a bit trade happy, but keep in mind that after this week, I've only got one player that I have to upgrade to a premium before my team is completed. So I'm looking in a pretty good position at the moment. This week, I'm looking to trade out Alex Fasolo to Lance Buddy Franklin. I think with Fasolo, I mean, I traded him in probably about a week before he went down with injury against Essendon. And I thought, look, his scoring is going to be out of the world this season. And I mean, when he came back, we've seen his scoring. It has been suffering a bit. So I've pretty much just seen him as a bit of a jump on cash cow, and now I'm jumping off him. Lance Franklin, I think he's scoring, as we've seen with Tippett on the side. It adds a bit of extra momentum for Franklin to have his scores skyrocket, and he's got a bigger ceiling, and I think now's the time to get on him. I was also considering Nick Riewoldt, but with St Kilda's form as well as his own form, I think I can't see a reason why his scoring will go up. Sam Lloyd is another player who I got in from the start. Also not from the start, from probably 3 weeks in, and I was looking at him to be a cash cow. And there was a few weeks ago where I was considering trading out McDonough or Lloyd, and I ended up trading out McDonough because I thought Lloyd's job security was better. Wasn't to be, so now I'm trading him out for Chad Wingard, who I know you got in last week, Paige. And
loved him. I was all over him.
A very consistent performer, and I'm looking forward to him being on my side.
Yeah, he's a great option. I love Wingard. If you haven't got him and you're looking to fill a second last or perhaps your last spot, he's such a great option. I like him a bit better than Gray personally. I think he's more of a clutch player, and therefore he's probably got a few more points to get it up his sleeve. But look, this week for me over at Rampage, look, same sort of thing. For Solo's out of the side and Buddy comes in. But the other issue I'm having as well is that I'm sort of saved by the fact that Enright is out. I didn't really want to bring Enright in. I feel a bit forced to because I've still got Webster playing as my last defensive option on field. I'm not quite happy about that, but I'll take it this week. The other issue is, I mean, that money that I upgrade to, I've only got about 150, 180 in the kitty. Yep. I really can't do much with it, funnily enough. I mean, I've got Josh Kelly there as my last midfielder, but again, I can't really trade him up to anyone. And if I do, then I'm going to have to sacrifice not trading in Buddy this week, and that's not happening for me. So. It's tough.
Is there a chance that you have someone up forward like a Dangerfield that's a dual position player who you can trade into your midfield and then maybe upgrade Kelly to someone like a Parker?
Well, it's funny that you should say that because during the week I was speaking to you boys and I actually said I'm really tempted to... I've got Dangerfield in my midfield at the moment. I've got Zorko, Wingard, those types that are up forward as well. I was really considering using the MPP link there and switching Kelly into the forward line via Wingard, for example. And then I could bring in both Riewoldt and Buddy and add them into my midfield. But the only issue I have there is that when I look at my midfield, I just don't see a really potent scoring midfield. I prefer Wingard and Danger as forwards, personally. I can live with Danger playing in the midfield as that link when I need it. I just would prefer to have a look at guys like Stevie J, who I can probably now hold out for. I'm contemplating this week probably trading down and getting a bit more cash in the kitty, although it's getting scarce at the moment with rookie trades. And then look at bringing in Stevie J, but the issue is, like we all want it now. We all want the perfect team now. So that's the issue I'm facing. But, Joyce, what about you? What's your side looking like this week? What's incoming having a look like?
It's looking like crap, to be honest. Just before I start, don't trade an Enright. He's out with an ankle injury.
Well, that's what I just said. I'm happy that he's actually not playing because it means I don't have to pick him. I really wasn't comfortable picking him.
Look for someone else, yeah. My trades are Sam Lloyd for Buddy Franklin and Harry Cunningham, who I still have, for Jobe Watson. And I actually covered both of these in my Monday podcast, Rejoice, check it out. And yeah, we covered Franklin earlier. It really needs to be hammered in. He's barely priced at over 400,000. He's a bargain. He's averaged 111 in his past 2 games, and that's a big improvement on the 71.6 that he's averaging when Tippett isn't playing. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And yeah, it's Kurt Tippett that's the big difference. It takes attention off Buddy. It allows him to kick those big scores, and he hasn't kicked really straight either. So I think he's got the potential to score.
He's moving up the ground, though. That's what I love. He's actually getting up the ground and getting a lot of possessions, and he's hitting targets by hand, by foot. As you said, Tippett's the perfect fall from. I really would be stumped to not see him the most traded in play this week. It's crazy.
Yeah. And with Watson, he's averaging 113 for the season, 120 over the past 3 weeks. He's got a break-even of 50, so you're not going to get him any cheaper. If you're looking to bring in, your super premiums and you can't bring in Steve Johnson, why not bring in Watson right now? And he always guns it in the Dreamtime matches. He's got a past 4 scores of 166 last year, 105, 124, and 130, so it's a no-brainer for me.
And just quickly as well, must mention mixed trades here. He's trading out Josh Kelly for Jed Bews, and he's subbing Langdon into the midfield in preparation for next week. And he's also trading out Luke McDonald to Buddy Franklin, who we spoke of there. So definitely one to get on.
Some pretty good trading from the SCP panel. But that's all we've got time for this week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Now keep tuned to us in the future because the SCP show is changing a little bit, but it's not taking away the great content that you know and love. Until then, we'll see you next week in a bit of a different SCP episode. But until then, we hope your team scores well, but hopefully I'm not